Welcome, devoted watchers of the glittering game and faithful listeners who crave the truths that hide behind practiced smiles and perfect lighting. Welcome home to Secrets Behind the Stars. In a world where the loudest voice often drowns out the most meaningful whisper, two names have chosen a different rhythm, a different pulse, and a different kind of spotlight. Not the blinding pop of flashbulbs, not the shrill echo of daily rumors, but a carefully tuned silence that hums with intent. Tonight, we lift the velvet curtain with the patience this story deserves and the thrill you come here to feel. The names shimmering in the center of our stage need no introduction: Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu. While everyone else sprints after the latest headline, these two stepped aside, caught their breath, and let the stillness speak. They set down the instruments of noise and picked up a metronome, tapping out a plan in time with their ambitions. Not a stray step, not a wasted glance. If you look closely, their quiet becomes a language of its own, full of pauses charged like thunderclouds, full of choices that feel less like reactions and more like declarations. Before we decode the map we've been tracing for months, take a second to anchor yourself to this very place. Subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars, hit the bell so you feel the ripple the moment it breaks the surface, and, if you love seeing the sky's secrets drawn in clean, bright lines, show it with a like. For those who want front row seats and a hand in our momentum, the join button is your VIP pass to everything we're building. Now breathe in, because this one has been building quietly for longer than anyone guessed. At first, the distance between them seemed like polite professionalism. They were working, they were focused, they were each busy in lanes that rarely intersected in public. But look again, and the picture sharpens. What seemed like a gap begins to pulse like the space before a drop in a great song. As whispers swelled and the same old questions were washed and rehung in the timeline, we heard something constant beneath the static: contact. Not the flashy kind. The steady kind that plans instead of postures. Sources who are more careful than chatty tell us the conversation never went cold. It matured. It stretched. It learned to breathe under pressure. Industry talk circles a date last summer, a temperature, a turning point. From then on, we're told, calendars were tuned with the steadiness of a craftsman's hand. One commitment laid beside the next with intent, not accident. Windows that once shut quickly suddenly opened into corridors. Independent trajectories began to echo. This was not a scramble to make something happen. It was the blueprint for when something would happen, all in the service of a shared horizon that feels both inevitable and fully chosen. Picture it like a long novel laid out in chapters, each page thick with foreshadowing, a brief prelude, a patient climb, and a reveal designed not to splash but to surge. Here is where it gets unmistakable. The first act doesn't settle for a local stage. It looks outward, throwing its net across languages and markets. The international reach Barış has cultivated with persisting grace, the brand partnerships that have followed Elçin with increasing frequency, when their arcs draw closer, it reads less like chance and more like choreography. This isn't about a quiet lunch or a shy cameo. It's about leverage. It's about the kind of power that comes from marrying timing to taste and talent to strategy. Together, the goal isn't just visibility, it's choosing the light and the lens. If you're one of our faithful sleuths, you've already seen the crumbs. A backdrop that looks familiar. The angle of a coffee cup that seems to repeat. A casual photograph snapped in a setting that eerily mirrors another, just days apart, just cities apart, just close enough to catch your breath. The friends who overlap like concentric circles. The captions that tilt toward suggestion instead of certainty. In broad daylight, the code floats like song lyrics on a summer wind, and you can hum along if you're listening. We read your comments, we trace your theories, and we love how you draw the lines before anyone else admits the picture. Are you reading the same map we are? Are you tracing the same constellations? No one at the center has spoken on the record. No big declarations. No coy denials. Just silence disciplined enough to contain a storm. And yet the question vibrates. Is something being built, not whispered? The safe money says yes. The fan favorite wish says yes. The professionals who watch the tide say yes. The chemistry that cracked screens years ago hasn't faded in memory, it has fermented into expectation. A voice close to the action gives us a line we can't get out of our heads. This time, it's deeper, slower, steadier. There is no rush because there is no doubt. Desire is not the engine, design is. Which is why the waiting feels like a held note, not a pause. We hear, too, that the preparation phase is done. Not a rumor, not a tease, but a stage reached. This is when the clock becomes a character. Somewhere, a day is circled in red ink. Somewhere, schedules have been tuned to meet it. The period in question seems to meet a series of other launches, new brand alignments for Elçin, a fresh cycle of stories and roles for Barış. The timing smells less like coincidence than coordination, and we can't resist the thrill of a countdown we can't fully see. Imagine an operations room where every move is placed, then paused, then placed again, until all the pieces move as one. That's the discipline this looks like from the outside. Now to the question that sets the fandom alight night after night: will they reunite on screen? There are no scripts in public hands, no leaked contracts, no midnight photos that tell too much. What we do have are gaps in their calendars that line up like magnets. The market knows what their names mean together. Producers hover, patient and hungry, ready to slide an irresistible offer onto a table that's already been polished for a meeting you won't hear about until it's finished. Those who truly know their temperaments say both are more resolute than ever, more centered, less impulsive. They want a balance that feels like a quiet room at the heart of a busy house. They want the kind of creative control that turns a job into a statement. Which brings us to the edge. Are we nearing a point of no return, a moment when speculation will be replaced by certainty that changes how the next year feels? The temperature suggests yes. The chatter is a constant hum now, like a city at night. Some predict an announcement before the year dims, others at the dawn of the next. Either way, the impression is the same: the fuse is lit. Someone, somewhere, told someone that preparations are complete, and that sentence moves like a spark through cotton. It touches everything. It makes patience feel like a practice instead of a penalty. There's a softer rumor that we can't ignore, the kind that arrives in careful whispers rather than public posts. Key people in their inner circles have been briefed. Messages sent to those who matter most. Not grand declarations, not spoilers, just a phrase that tightens the air. Prepare for unexpected surprises. What does that mean? We can guess, we can weave, we can spend midnight hours laying scaffolding in our minds. It sounds less like a weekend getaway and more like a reshaping of schedules and priorities built to last. Serious, measured, personal and professional at once. If you watch how they move, you see how they protect the pieces. We're told that press is handled with white-glove caution, no loose ends, no loud echoes. Private flights that shake off easy sightings. Locations chosen for their silence, not their skyline. Last-minute changes that look messy on the outside and perfect on the inside. It's the paradox of secrecy: it muffles sound while amplifying attention. The more carefully this is managed, the louder the demand to know. And it's not just fans who are watching now. Brands are awake and alert. International companies have their calculators out and their creatives on standby. A partnership like this is more than art: it's image, it's reach, it's a promise of eyes and hearts. The offers, we hear, are already piled like neat envelopes waiting for a signature. From certain rooms comes a confident suggestion: the edges are stitched, the pattern fixed, and only the final embroidery remains. Imagine a painting dusted with a sheer veil. You can see the shape. You can feel the color. But the hand that lifts the fabric has not yet moved. When it does, we plan to be the first to feel the draft of that reveal and to tell you how it looks in the instant it meets the air. Until then, we entertain ourselves, and each other, with guesses. Will it be a grand screen drama poised for festivals abroad? A prestige series that returns lightning to a bottle? A shared creative imprint that reshapes how their work reaches audiences? Tell us your dream version. From where we sit, watching the tremor run through this city of stories, the most intoxicating element is intention. You can sense it in decisions that resist mess and prefer craft. You can hear it in a silence that holds rather than hides. It suggests a pact that respects their past magic and insists on a future that's worthy of it. And that is, perhaps, what pulls the world toward them in waves every time their names touch in a sentence. This is where we leave the lights low and the room quiet enough to hear your heartbeat. If this dive into the architecture of restraint moved you the way it moved us to map it, anchor yourself to Secrets Behind the Stars, subscribe, tap that bell, and if you're ready to lean in even closer, become a member and take your seat among those who love to read the sky. Send us your visions for what comes next. Call it a reunion that bends borders, a series that redefines elegance, or an alliance that expands into a creative house with their standards stamped on every door. Whatever you see, paint it for us. Your instincts have a way of arriving early. Until the curtain moves, remember that not all quiet is emptiness. Some silences are engines. Some pauses are preludes. And some plans are so carefully built that you only notice their power at the very moment they touch air and change the way everything sounds. When that happens, we will be here, breath held and light steady, to share every frame, every line, every look. Until then, sleep lightly, watch closely, and never doubt the gravity of a choice well made. Good night from Secrets Behind the Stars, where the loudest truth is sometimes the one that doesn't need to be shouted at all.